Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Snow White with the Red Hair, chapter 124. When we last left our heroes, Kageya was dragged back to her home by this mysterious bandit group, whose the details we still don't exactly have a lot of. But she's forced into giving them what they want, the antidote to this mysterious perfume, by threatening Ryu's life. And she does. She takes them to this greenhouse, and we sort of leave them there to focus on Shirayuki, Obi, and Eisatsu, who come to the house later, try to investigate what the hell happened there. And while they're there, some more of those bandits end up at the house. Eisatsu is able to sort of, try to pretend he's going to be on their side of pretending to kill Obi and Shirayuki, and he gets some information out of them. That specifically that they are not connected to the men who attacked him the night before at the masquerade, and also that they don't seem to be the same guys who attacked the carriage with Ryu, Shu, and Yozumi. But beyond that, they don't get a lot of information out of them, and so as Obi and Eisatsu bemoan the fact that they're now without any leads, Shirayuki finds out in a book about this greenhouse that Kageya is keeping, and that's going to be their next destination, I predict. So with that said, let's dive right on in chapter 124. We open in a flashback as a man, I guess like the sort of bandit leader, tells someone, "We've captured both Lyra and Yozumi, it seems. We've also captured some of Duke Regilia's vassals, but the whereabouts of the Duke himself remains unknown." I thought Eisatsu was an earl, right? Am I misremembering that? I very well might be. The way he just describes him as a young lord, noble lord is his occupation. So he might be a duke. I assumed he was an earl for some reason. Either way, that line goes against what the bandit told Eisatsu last chapter. That, he had no idea. He was confused about the attack of the masquerade and about the carriage incident, implying that either the guy was lying or he's like too low down the totem pole to have been involved in the attack on the carriage. But it is the same organization we see here behind both what's going on with Kageya and Ryu and the attack on the carriage. We capture some of Duke Regilia's vassals, but the whereabouts of the Duke himself remains unknown. Then we see this older gentleman, who seems to be perhaps the entire ringleader of everything, who tells his subordinate, "Without Lyra and Yozumi, the Duke cannot prove anything. Once this is over, tell them to deal with it according to plan." He takes as his henchman leads, takes a drink. That damn Regilia, pretending to abstain from troublesome things. Yeah, that's not really what he's doing at all, is it? But then there's like a slam on the door. And then the door creaks open into this room. He's calm enough that it feels like he maybe registered that slam as like a knock and not someone more aggressive. But he questions the person entering. What is it? Was there something else? But he's cut off, and there's this look of fear on his face. And it's Tsuruba, who's come into the room with that lead that Obi mentioned last chapter. And the man stands up, and Tsuruba tells him, "I beg your pardon. I let myself in as the matter is urgent." And the man just questions, "Bergatt, are you the head? Or is it?" And Tsuruba stops him. "I'm Tsuruba, Bergatt. You met us so many times, it astonishes me you still cannot tell us apart." That's a good dig. I've known many a twin who would make fun of people for not telling the twins apart. But Tsuruba then goes on, "That's why you can't handle what my brother has set up." Okay, so Tsuruba seems to have some very clear idea as to what the hell is going on here. But the man is just sort of uncomfortable that he's been caught, it seems. You can't control it, and it's been exposed. You can't manage this anymore, can you? And the man questions, "Why?" And Tsuruba cuts him off. "Why am I here, you ask? Last night, some subordinates of yours neglected to come home with a report, correct? I recognize them, so I've taken charge of them for now." Okay, so hold on. Is he referring to the guys who attacked Eisatsu? Because the bandit in yesterday's chapter mentioned that he had some subordinates who didn't report back in. I don't know. I'm still a little bit hazy on the exact details there. But the man realizes that he's in a very bad position here. And Suraba looks at him. Tell me everything about the people using the perfume and the money involved. But the man sort of tries to pretend to still be in control here. You say Lord Toka set this in motion. Of course, you would know about it as well. But Suraba stops him. I do not. All I know is how to dispose of those who touch my brother's things. I'm sure you know what I do too, don't you? And with that threat, the man is just panicked. And he just steps back and I think hits some pitcher or something. There's liquid falling behind him. And he begs, wait, we can talk about this. The perfume is in its testing phase. Lord Toka and I kept this secret together. And there's one other in on the secret. He said it was necessary to fortify our defenses for when Lord Toka comes back to us. I cooperated in that plan. Is there the sense that Toka could come back? I figured he was just locked in jail for a long time, and I highly doubted Izana or Zen would have ever given him the time of day after all the shit he pulled. But Suraba comments, for my brother's sake, and looks at the man. So you decided to join in on this scheme. And the man still seems to be trying to defend himself. Which is weird because, he's already admitted, right? He's very much already admitted, but he's still at the bottom of page 6 trying to deny. What are you? That's incredibly rude, Lord Bergatt. And Suraba goes on, and the report you just received? Madame Lyra was in communication with my brother. The Madame and Sir Yozumi are the creator of the antidote and an addict to the perfume. Okay, so we're getting something of an answer there. Lyra has this antidote, but I'm still kind of confused. What is the goal of trying to find the right way to phrase this? Because is the antidote just so they themselves don't get caught up in the smell? That's my best guess. But then if you go back to the woman at the masquerade, the blonde woman, didn't she ask for the antidote? The antidote already existed? I don't know. The man goes on, that's correct. The madam follows Lord Toka's orders. To keep her in line, we needed Yozumi. And Suraba thinks the fact we already kind of know, a hostage. Definitely a relative. But just then, I'm guessing the man's wife calls, Dear! Dear! And the man looks at Suraba, and Suraba sort of placidly gazes at him, and the man leaves. And Suraba takes that opportunity to look around the man's study, and he sees, I guess he's his guards. And I don't know, I'm gonna have a bit of a theory here. The way the man's acting, going back to that weird little sudden denial back on page 6, could he possibly be under the influence of the perfume? Because something seems to change. Actually, looking back at the moment at the liquid spills, maybe that's the perfume. Because he goes from being kind of panicked, and then on that next panel where we see him, his body language is very calm. I don't know. There's definitely some weird thing going on with him. But he walks out into the outside the room, and he sees all these, I guess, guards knocked out. And he calls, anyone? Is anyone there? And we see a woman also collapsed. And it's Tariga, who has seemingly been at least either knocking out or maybe even killing the man's guards. And Tariga just looks up at him. I love the sword is just skewered in the step. There's just pure contempt in his eyes for the man. What have you done? And Tariga calls, Suraba, the manor has been cleared. And then this is Suraba approaching now. Did you get anything out of them? And Tariga goes on, it appears that his wife and her relatives were part of the conspiracy. Okay, so it's a whole fucking family involved. And Suraba has gotten some notes from the man's study. Another in on the secret, you said? You made the perfume, while you and your wife resided in an associate's home, making large amounts of money by giving it away little by little. And Tariga just sort of draws his blade to stare at the man, and the man just gets on his knees and begs, I won't use it as if it's my own anymore. I beg you to overlook this. That seems like not quite the problem here. Like, the problem is that it seems that you're making it at all for, I guess, some kind of scheme. Like, I'm still kind of unclear as to what because, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this. This bit about, that Tsuruba says, on the top left corner of page 10, while you and your wife reside in an associate's home, making large amounts of money by giving it away little by little, was it just a way to, like, make more money to eventually help Toka if he ever gets out of jail or something? Because that seems very ineffectual, for lack of a better word. And then, interestingly, the first 10 pages, we've had this sort of black flashback border to all the panels. And on 11, it changes to white. Like, maybe, I don't know, this scene now is catching up to where the last chapter left off or something. Either way, the man goes on, henceforth, I vow to obey you, so I beg you to spare my life. And Kageya sort of watches this, sheaths his sword, and tells Tsuruba, I'll call the backup over. And he looks up at his brother. And then we're back in flashback borders, which is, I guess, just a weird little glitch on page 11. But Tsuruba kind of mocks the man. Just who do you think sent us here? And then we cut back to Obi and Eisetsu. Obi, Lord Eisetsu! And Shirayuki is approaching them with the book from the end of last chapter. Look at this. Ryu was here before us. And we see there's this, like, blood stain. Like 5 fingers streaked with blood. As Eisetsu looks at it, more blood. Obi recognizes it, though, as the signal from the inn. At, like, the very beginning of this arc, when, like, the sort of signal they used to, like, acknowledge they were in their rooms at when they first arrived at, I think it was even, like, Shu's manor, before they were even at Eisetsu's. 2 knocks, as we flash back to Ryu saying, twice, and then 3 times. And we see the 2 splotches of blood, and then the 3 splotches of blood, as Obi thinks, little Ryu. And Shirayuki tells them, we have to find the greenhouse. He let us know that's where he went. And Eisetsu's confused, the greenhouse? This was tucked in the book. And we see it's like a blood-stained flower petal that we saw at the end of last chapter. It's the petal of a plant that has to be cared for in a greenhouse during the winter here in the north. And Eisetsu just sort of is kind of confused there. There are plenty of petals scattered around here. You mean to say he selected this one? And Shirayuki goes on, yes, there are fallen petals and leaves all over, but this petal has been plucked on purpose. Ryu wouldn't do that without a reason. He deliberately chose this panel and tucked it into the pages of this book as a sign. Which, you know, I do like getting to see, like, the gang's very heightened botanical knowledge being used in this plot. Like, it's the overall drama here is sort of, let's say, outside the bounds of what you'd expect a pharmacist to do. But, you know, the way the perfume is tied up with Shirayuki's, like, specialization, her particular knowledge, the way we see, like, Ryu uses these signs of, that Shirayuki would recognize because of her knowledge to signal her, it's a good way to, like, tie in, it's a good way to make, like, this is a kind of action-heavy plot that could easily sideline Shirayuki. As I recall, the original Bergatt plotline did, which is one of the reasons I was never a big fan of that arc. But here we're seeing Sarada is finding ways to, like, continue to make her particular talents relevant. Anyway, tucked in the page of this book is a sign. And Obi comments, yes, I think so too. And Shirayuki looks at them with this, like, determination, and Eisetsu pauses for a moment, and then turns to Obi. We don't know where the 4 of them are. We don't know who's with who. But I've told the servants to alert the knights if no one returns. Let's search the vicinity. And they're out and about trying to find the greenhouse. As Obi comments, it should be around the house somewhere. But Eisetsu questions, I haven't heard anything about the house having a greenhouse. If there were one, it would stand out. But Obi tells him, if it's for the antidote, it would be hidden away. Then questions Aisatsu some more. Do you know anything about how Lady Kageya would hide her things, or her specific tendencies? And Aisatsu protests, like I would know about that. She didn't even tell me she had a son. Yeah, that is the sudden realization this girl you liked had a hell of a lot of secrets from you. But Shirayuki comes to a realization, what if we look from above? And we see Obi with his, tree climbing talent, let's say. Gets on a branch, looking around, like high above the village. The sun is bouncing off something. And we see this tiny little glint in the distance. And he jumps off this cliff the branch was on. Let's go! You nailed it, young miss! And he jumps right down. Aisatsu and Shirayuki are ready to fucking go. And they make it to the greenhouse. It's here, right? Oh no, we're with the bandits now. Kageya and the bandits are now at the greenhouse. It's here, right? And Kageya tells him, yes, everything. And the bandits sort of look at each other as Kageya and their, sub-leader head towards the greenhouse. And the bandits finally take the bag off of Ryu's head and ask him, boy, do you know a lot about medicines? And he picks up a pharmacy tag, which I thought he dropped in the aftermath of the carriage attack, and then Shirayuki found. Did he have two of those? I don't know. But the man just tells him, I took this when we discovered your dagger. Oh, I guess he had one that was not part of his dagger and one that was, or something. Make sure she doesn't put anything strange in the medicine. If you notice anything's off, tell us. If you want to live, that is. So now Ryu's being forced to help in their plot. And the man shoves Kageya, get started. Write down everything you use. And then he throws a book at Ryu. You too, boy. Write everything you understand. And Kageya pauses for a moment and then gets to work crafting the antidote. Putting various plants and liquids in and everything. And Ryu watches. And as the bandit watches Ryu, he turns to Kageya. What's that? And Kageya tells him a necessary ingredient. And then he grabs the bowl and shoves it in front of Ryu. Because he's trusting this last little item. He's mistrusting this last little item. And he tells Ryu, drink it. Prove to us this isn't poison. And Ryu takes this moment. He's sort of a little scared, but he does go through with it. And the bandit notices, why were you concerned? And Ryu tells him after a pause, earlier you were talking about the perfume and its ingredients. But this should be for pain relief. And Kageya seems a little startled. Maybe she didn't want the guys knowing about that. And the bandit looks at her. And Kageya then says, I was worried about the child who looked to be in pain from your punch. I was going to give it to him after. But that excuse does not really jive with them, as one of the bandits just slaps her, stunning Ryu, and tells her, don't do anything unnecessary. And Ryu is just not happy to be here right now. This is just a really fucking bad time for him. But then the medicine making continues. We see more notes. And Kageya finally says, I finished. And the bandit leader tells her, hand me the bowl. And she does. She gives him the bowl. And he places it in front of Ryu. And Ryu thinks, this medicine will cure Tsuruyoshimi. I'm sure it's all right. And he drinks it. And the bandit just tells him, well done. How lucky for you to perform such a task before you died. Finish him. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. It's a good thing we know that Obi is on the way. Because I can't imagine that Ryu survives that without Obi showing up. And we see Kageya's with this shot of her shoes under her dress, as she wobbles with the realization they're going to kill Ryu anyway. Especially considering what that might mean for Yoshimi. If they kill one hostage, aren't they just going to kill the other hostage they're keeping? So lots of reasons for her to be concerned. Anyway, one of the henchmen asks him, is this all right? It's not a problem. I don't care how you do it. And he draws his blade and holds it over Ryu, and Kageya calls, stop! And there's a pause, and she holds the instructions over the fire as a threat. But the bandit laughs. Are you attempting to resist? If you want to burn it, go ahead. And there's this moment as she turns to Ryu with, like, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry you got wrapped up in this. And then there's this tiny pause as Ryu just stares at her, and the bandit drops his sword to the ground, stunning his boss as the bandit, like, looks at, he can't, like, grip with his hand. Huh? Oh, and there was something going on with the fire, with the paper or something, as the bandit leader calls, bitch, what did... And then he drops to his knees, and Kageya burns the paper. Published in Lava Magazine every month, to be continued, though not every month, in Lava issue 10. Okay, so my guess is that the paper was made out of something that, when burned, causes paralysis? I don't know. It's a smart thing to have on hand if you're wrapped up in some grand conspiracy to restore an evil Earl to his position. So, like, really, honestly, cool bit of thinking on Kageya's part. I honestly really like this scene with her and Ryu. There's a lot of just good little moments there. From the bandit realizing that Ryu is at the very least knowledgeable about medicine. Just seeing Kageya, even as she's been sort of forced into this role. Sorry, that's my medicine alarm. Even as she's been forced into this role as a sort of evil, or as the accomplice to evil, let's say, she still, like, makes sure to, you know, she's still trying to help Ryu, in, like, all kinds of ways. You know, she gives him the pain relief. There was no reason to do that. You know, he wasn't, like, terribly harmed. It, you know, helped him feel a little better, but, like, it wasn't super useful. And she suffered for it, but we still get to see that sort of inherent goodness to her, for lack of a better term. So that was really great to see. And then we see some more of that from a bit more of a, like, I guess, badass standpoint, the bit with the fire and whatever the hell burning the paper did that causes the bandits to be, like, paralyzed. It's a good bit. I was expecting, again, Obi to, like, swoop in and save the day at the last minute or something. But once again, like I sort of called out with the flower scene earlier, it's pharmaceutical knowledge that ends up being the salvation in so many ways in this arc. It's really nice. It's a really, really well-crafted story here. It's just a damn good arc. It's just damn good times all around. I basically said all there is to say about the Shirayuki scene. How her knowledge and sort of the bonds between her, Obi, and Ryu allow them to find out about the greenhouse, the sort of secret code they made, is real nice. But their whole, like, the whole point of that scene is just them finding out where Ryu is. Is not super relevant, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's just sort of moving them along. It's got some good character moments, of course. But it's just moving them along to the next phase of the plot. But then we also have this bit with the Bergatt twins and the Mastermind. And they're still just, like, we get some answers here, but there's still just a lot of questions. You know? Like, what is their end goal? Like, what exactly are they using the perfume for? Is it to, like, you know, knock out prison guards so they can rescue Toka or something? Or, I don't know. I'm still a little bit unclear as to, like, what exactly their end game is. And that's intentional, I presume. But I am still sort of... I'm ready to find out what their goal is. You know, the mystery is still, like, engaging and still really good, but I couldn't help feeling like that this scene in particular, like, the rest of the chapter is not really a problem. For this scene in particular, the scene with the twins and the masterminds, it might have worked a lot better if we had a little more knowledge as to what the hell was going on here. I don't know. Maybe the next few chapters will give us some more insight as to what's happening here. But for now, I'm really to the state of I want to know what is going on. But yeah, all in all, that scene, as good as it was probably the weaker part of the chapter. The Shirayuki stuff was fun, good. You know, it's all based in her knowledge and their friendship, and it's really nice. And then Kaguya is just sort of really cool here. You know, the way she like goes out of her way to suffer for Ryu, who she like barely knows. The way she like has this backup plan to stop the bandits in the end with the paper is all really good. I think she's neat. I really think she's neat. And much like I had the same impression that much like Eisetsu, I don't think Kaguya is going to be really sticking around post this arc. I would very much not be opposed to her sticking around. She's a really fun character. Just a little bit you've seen of her so far. You know, she's got this sort of headstrong determination. She's going to make her own way in the world. And she's going to, like, have this very, like, roundabout plan to stand up to these bandits. It's really good. And I want to see more of her. But yeah, all in all, really fun chapter this time. I can't wait to see how all this plays out going forward, as it's starting to look like we're getting closer and closer to the climax of this arc. And I can't wait to see how all that plays out. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!